Welcome to Downshift, my name is Matt, and this is the flagship electric SUV from Mercedes, their EQS. And last week, thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz in Milwaukee, we took a tour of all the coolest and most interesting things going on with this car. But today, we're hitting the highlights, the best and the rest, starting with the rest. The first thing we're going to talk about, and I hate to put this at the front of the video because looks are so subjective, but it's been heavily discussed online, so I think it bears mentioning here, and that's the styling. Yeah, it's a little weird looking, but I will say this, it's better looking than the sedan version, at least in my opinion. Again, it's all subjective. Your grille is a giant slab speckled with little Mercedes-Benz stars, which personally, I kind of fell for, to be honest. And you have a full width headlight, which is kind of interesting. But then your hood doesn't open because there's essentially an industrial strength air purifier under there. So you have a little slot in your front fender to put your washer fluid in. And then your wheels have these aero covers on to maximize range, and they look kind of cool. And your door handles are recessed into the body, of course, and when they pop out, they have that little sprinkle of chrome, and it says Mercedes-Benz etched into the top. And around back, it's a very simple design. The Mercedes-Benz Star is your trunk opener, and it also hides your reverse camera. And you have a full-width tail bar, which on either end looks like that 90s Cup design that we all know, or at least all of us born in '94 and around then would. And then you have a suggestive exhaust design in your lower bumper, but obviously no exhaust. I mean, it's unconventional to be sure. Do I love it? No. But do I hate it? No, absolutely not. The question that I find myself asking is, which poison are you going to take, the EQS or the BMW iX? You know? Number two is price, and this isn't a surprise, but the EQS is more expensive than the BMW iX. The EQS here starts at $105,000, and the iX starts at just under $90,000. And the M60 fast version of the iX starts at $111,000, whereas the EQS 580 here, the bigger power one that we're in, starts at $126,000. And range is pretty much identical between these two, depending on wheel and tire spec. Number three, and this point is specifically about the charging speed, because the range here is actually pretty good. This thing is built on the 400-volt architecture, and it'll charge 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes in ideal conditions on a DC fast charger, which doesn't sound too bad, right? And it's not that bad, but then you remember that a Hyundai is doing the same thing in just over half the time, and it's a little disappointing for a brand whose tagline is the best or nothing. This is pretty black and white, not the best. It's good, but not the best. But with that, let's talk about all the great stuff going on here. Number one, I want to start with the drive. I know there's been a lot of chat about how these Mercedes-Benz EVs drive, and some of it is valid. The brake pedal moving thing is super disturbing, and I hate it. But you kind of just dial in more or less regen. If you turn regen totally off, then it won't do that. What this thing does do is ride exactly how I want an uber luxury SUV to ride. It's got air suspension as standard, and the waft and suppleness here is borderline Rolls-Royce level. I love the old luxury feel here. You've got rear steering as standard, so it feels agile and maneuverable and kind of darty. And the cabin is whisper quiet. And we'll head into sport, because it's got almost 550 horsepower, and it's plenty quick. But at no point does it seem like it makes any sacrifices to the luxury component in the name of sport. This is a self-aware Mercedes-Benz product, and I'm very happy about it. If it's not an AMG, I want it to ride and handle exactly like this. And then we're going to talk about range. Now, it's incredibly common for cars these days to claim a big range figure, 300, over 300 miles. But that's with the rear wheel drive or the single motor variant of the car. As soon as you option dual motor or all-wheel drive, those ranges start to fall to 220 to 250-ish. So it's really nice that you get all-wheel drive here with dual motors and still 285 miles of range, closer to that 300 number than that 250 number. And to consider you're getting all that range with almost 550 horsepower. It's pretty impressive. And then number three, we're going to talk about the rear seats, and they're super roomy, even for people over 6 feet like myself, which is great to see, and you can option a third row if you really want, which is something the BMW iX can't say. However, personally, I might skip it, as the third row would be pretty cramped. Let's set the record straight here. This may be called the EQS, but it's not an electric GLS. This is 4 inches shorter than a GLS, so in that way, with the option of a third row, it's kind of more comparable to GLE in size. But the back seats here are spacious, they're comfy, they're adjustable, they're heated, they get their own dedicated sunroof back here, and not to mention pillows. Very luxe, very nice. And number 4, we're talking technology, and obviously your brand new flagship Mercedes SUV is brimming with all the bleeding edge technology that you can fathom. The main event is obviously the hyperscreen, which is genuinely pretty astounding, especially at night when it's rimmed with all the ambient light and all the crazy things the ambient light does. So it's no secret where your money went. It looks awesome. And it's packed with all the usual stuff: Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, the best 360 cameras in the game, a fingerprint reader for custom driver profiles and settings, and some of the best driver assistance suite money can buy. Plus a super comprehensive digital cluster which has its own quirks and features, if you catch my drift. And now you have this range screen, which gives you all these little suggestions of things you can do to maximize the range of the car. You can select them individually, or you can push this button in the center to action them all at once. I mean, genuinely, if it wasn't jaw-dropping from the outside, it absolutely is overwhelmingly intoxicating in here. Really, really cool stuff. And number 5, time for something a little bit lower tech. That's the trunk. But even still, this is a huge trunk with loads of practicality. You've even got fancy toggles to raise and lower the seats from back here. And to me personally, this big and practical trunk is another reason that I might skip the 3rd row option on this EQS. And number 6, there's all the comforts and luxuries typical of a Mercedes-Benz flagship SUV. We'll start with your seats. They're heated, they're cooled, you've got seat kinetics, and you can even program workouts to keep you energized through a long drive. You've also got massage to help you relax and cool down, and you have an automatic seat adjustment where you can enter your height and the car will automatically adjust the seat to the ideal driving position. Then there's the sunroof, or sunroofs, which the front one is operated by a snazzy slider, and then there's all the tech stuff and air suspension and all the other things that we already talked about contributing to the luxury component here. I mean, it kind of is just an astounding overall package, but that sounds like a topic for the final thoughts. So that's the best and the rest of the Mercedes EQS SUV, and I have to say I've come away from my time with this car more impressed than I thought I was going to be. So many reviews on these things are kind of harsh, but I think those people are missing the point. It doesn't say AMG anywhere on here, so what it's going for is Max Luxury Tech Fest, and it accomplishes that in spades. And it's just so intoxicating, the cabin experience at night with the hyperscreen and the ambient lighting. I don't know, maybe I'm weird, but I really liked it. So thanks to our friends at Mercedes-Benz of Milwaukee for letting us have a go, and we'll see you in the next one. Well, that's it. We'll go into Sport. Give ourselves some room under strong regen, and then just hit it. It does have some noises. Not quite Hans Zimmer noises, but some.